So like the last video that I uploaded, I'll be using Next.js again. Because I fell in love with the Next.js lately. Today, what I will start to build will be website builder, but something that is very similar to UX Folio. This application is pretty good to reference. You can have multiple portfolios in your account, and then you can change the portfolio name, and then you can delete it, and then you can create a new one, right? So you can choose the template if you like. If not, you can skip it to generate default template, right? Once you open up your portfolio, you can add the sections if you need. There are multiple sections, by the way. So in my case, let's try it out to add the text section, right? You should be able to edit the content using a rich text editor, right? Which is pretty cool. You can change the size of the heading, right? And then you can change the paragraph, right, to heading if you like to. And then there are multiple options to customize your section, right? In this case, we're changing the content alignment to left, to center, and right. You can also delete if you don't need it, right? So there are tons of features in this application. So that's why I decided to reference this application. Hopefully you're gonna enjoy what I'm building, and then let me know what you think, what we are building together. I'll be going into a directory called dev because that's where I keep all my project repository. So let's click enter and let's give it a name, website builder. And then I'll be using TypeScript as usual, ESLint yes, Tailwind yes, source directory no, and then app router yes, turbopack yes, alias yes, and then import alias with the default one. Okay, so let's go into our repository and then let's open up the code base. Awesome. As we explored in the past videos, in the home directory, there are all configurations and the metadata files. We don't need to worry at this point. And then it has app directory, has one layout and the page files. So to start with that, I'll be deleting unnecessary content. I'm removing all. Let me make it a little bit smaller. Hopefully this one is feasible. And then I'll be having like a landing page or something. Here, I'm gonna change the name to landing page. Just briefly talking about the file name here. So if you're in the page.tsx file, then you don't need to worry about the name of the component much, because this one will be exported as a default anyway. But I'm changing the name to something that makes sense so that I can find the file a little bit easier and then quicker. Okay. And then in the layout, we also want to just briefly browse around and let's see what things we can do. We have default fonts families, but I'll be deleting them all since I'm not using it, right? Let's delete them all. And the meta, we need to change the name to, you can say create maybe website builder. Okay, so website builder. And then I'll be changing the description to build your own website without writing code. Maybe without code. Website without code. Awesome. So I think this one is pretty good. We can start with the initial commit, right? So you can just simply, hey, git add and then git commit initial setup. That's what we have done. Awesome. So the next thing will be setting up the library called ShadCN. Okay, so ShadCN has been very famous because this library is very customizable, and then works with the Tailwind, which is another popular framework that most people use nowadays, right? So let's go to doc and install and the Next.js page here. So this way you can initialize your project with the ShadCN. So I'll be copy pasting, okay? So let's go back to your code editor and then you are just pasting it here. So initialize and then of course yes, and then the base color you do not need to worry too much. Chances are it may be changing it, right? I will start with neutral for now, okay, which is default. And then we have a comparability issue with the React 19 here, right? Some features are not working as expected. So I'll be using legacy peer dependencies, okay? Awesome. So which we already have done. So I'm gonna make a commit and then with the message, set up ShadCN. Great. So to start with, we're gonna check our application. Nice. So we can see the landing page right here, which is good. So now we'll be writing some code to create basic layouts. So let's make it half a screen so that we can see things a little bit more. Awesome. The font is kind of too big and then I don't see much information here. So let's just start with a little bit here. Okay. Hopefully this one help you to see a little bit better. If not, I'm sorry, but I will try my best. Okay, let's just start. What I want to do first will be creating the header so that we can navigate easily whenever necessary. To create the header, you can just create the file directly and then add the components and the slash and the layouts and then header.tsx. So then it's gonna create folders and then component, right? So which is awesome. So now we are gonna create, let me just adjust the screen a little bit. So we're gonna create the component called header. So header, we're gonna import the first to our page in our layout directly, okay? So, oops, not here. Header, awesome. So now then we can see the header, which is great. So now I'll be updating the header. We need to create some structure, okay? So div tag, this one is for container, okay? So that we can keep the contents to the center when your screen sizes grow, okay? And then we're gonna have a logo on the left side, and then right side, there will be some buttons, and there's some avatar based on what we need, okay? So just to add maybe just the logo for now, and there's some avatar or some button. Avatar or some button. So let's just start to customize a little bit. I'll be adding some basic styling. I'm gonna start with the content on both ends, left and right. Right, change it to flex and justify between, looking good. And then I'm gonna add some padding 8 pixel roughly. Another thing that we need to do is creating some logo. Okay, so I'm gonna change the name to WB. Yeah, and then we're gonna add some link to from the next link, and then I'll be adding content inside. I'll be adding spawn tag here because I'm gonna have my logo inside here. I just created my own logo similar to other logos out there. We can put it into the public folder. Yeah, so this is the logo that I'll be using. Okay, so to start with that, I will be importing. Okay, so import maybe logo from home directory to public, and then choosing the logo. At the same time, to render the logo, we need image tag from next image. So then we should be able to add image tag right here. This one is self-closing, right? Sorry, I have typo. And then we're gonna give the logo to the source. Let's change it to small letter. And then give the alt text logo. Let's make it simple. And then you're gonna see some problem just saying we do not have href, right? So let's fix one by one. Href will be home page, okay? And then we can start to style a little bit, okay? So here I'm gonna give a class name to make the content horizontal, right? So give the flex and then give some gap, maybe 8 pixel. And then at the same time, I need to keep them center vertically. Let's give some the size to the logo, right? So I'll be giving the size to here. So class name and the size, maybe 30 around the 32 pixel will be looking okay in my opinion. Awesome. And then let's grow this guy. So I'll be using the font for my logo. So I'm gonna call it Bungee. And then that is coming from Google Fonts, right? So let's import it. It doesn't do auto suggestion. So here from the next font, Google. Yeah, sometimes they don't know enough to suggest. Here I'm getting the Bungee, and then I'll be giving some, basic things here. So we for sure need to give weight, but then we only have 400, right? So we're gonna give that, and then we're gonna give some subsets that is Latin. So I'll be giving some styles to my link. We're gonna wrap it, and then at the same time we're gonna wrap it, and then we're gonna use the function called CN. Okay, so CN is utility function that is built by ShadCN. Okay, so this function is pretty much merging class names from Tailwind. Okay, so here I'm gonna use CN, and then I'll be merging my font style here, font family. So here I'll be giving the Bungee dot class name. Awesome. So it's looking pretty good already. So and then let's give some sides of the text. Okay, so text, let's try to give 3XL to see if it's looking good. Is it too big? Yeah, maybe 3 will be better. Awesome. What I would do is moving this guy to different directory as my logo, and then at the same time we don't have any other things. We don't need this one. So here, logo. This is what I'm going to create, but we don't have the component yet. So we're gonna create component called logo here. So logo.tsx, and then RFC, and then change the name to logo. And then just to paste the whole thing. Of course, you need to import it from the right place, right? So let's change everything. And then we need to import the link too, right? So import link from next link. Great. Huh. Oh, something is off. I guess I pasted it twice here. So here I'll be deleting. Awesome. So then, which is good. And then also image also need to be imported from Next, right? So here import image from Next image. So now let's just, oops, my logo is also does not exist. Hold on. So a whole bunch of stuff are missing, right? So here just copy paste the whole thing to get out. Great. And then let's remove everything that is not necessary. And then let's import logo. Great. It should look exactly the same. And then I'll be just having some small button on the right side called, maybe we can have launch button, okay? So here I'm gonna use the button, and then I'm gonna have anchor tag, which is link, and the link is coming from the next link, and the button is coming from for the ShadCN, right? We need to add a component, right? So let's try to add a component, npx ShadCN add button. And then I'll be using legacy peer dependencies. Awesome. So then I will have a button here. So let's try to see if I can import. Awesome. Yeah, button is here. And the link, we need to have some href. Okay. So here I'm gonna go to projects, which I don't have yet. And then it's going to be just a launch. Awesome. Somewhat, I really don't like this radius. I want it to look more square this time, okay? So let's go to the global CSS and then changing the default radius to maybe quarter rem. Yeah, I think this one is looking a little bit better in my opinion. So which is good. And then here, bungee is not necessary. Let's delete that. Awesome. Yeah, looking pretty good so far. But here, if you look at it carefully, one thing I have noticed is the button refs anchor tag, right? But you want to have an anchor tag that has a button style, but not actually a button repping the anchor tag, right? So then you can add edge child right here. So then now if you take a look, then you will see the anchor tag only. Awesome. And then here, the same thing, you only see anchor tags, right? So which is good. Yeah, this is what I want. Great. Then you can redirect. And then another thing that I want to improve in the header is this. So take a look. Wow. And then when your screen size gets bigger and bigger, user needs to see all the way to the left, all the way to the right here, right? But instead, I might just limiting the content maximum width to somewhere in the center, right? So that's what I want to achieve. How you're gonna do that will be giving some class name to, maybe we can give it here. I'm gonna say the container class. But once you have that, as you can see, it's gonna have maximum width that is 1536 pixel, and then you want to keep them to the center, right? So the way you can keep them to the center will be the margin X auto. I think this is what I want to get. And then at the same time, the padding is supposed to belong to the container, in my opinion. Great. So, but this type of, the container styling needed to be applied to, your page section too, right? So to do that, I'm gonna create one reusable component, okay? So I'll be calling it as core for now. I don't know, many people call it global or, UI, whichever they feel like. In my case, this one I would call it core, that is reusable component, okay? I'm gonna create a component called container TSX here. So my container component, of course, we need to provide the style that is the same as in the header, which is right here. So this one is our default styling, okay? We have a default styling, default styling here. And then since this one needed to be working as a wrapper, we're gonna, get the props, right? So children. So to do that, we're gonna just have, we're gonna build a type props, and which is component props, and then this one will be having div tag, okay? What it means, you can accept all different props what your div tag is capable to accept, okay? So here, if you auto suggest, then you will see a bunch of options, right? I'll be giving children first, okay? Children to this content section here. And then I'll be passing all the rest props just to directly pass it to your div tag here. We need to pass the class name to this so that we can override the style or adding more styles later, okay? So I'll be using just a wrapper, curly braces, and then I'll be using CN function again. And then I'll be adding class name right after as a second argument. And then there's one Redux feature. Since we are using the ShadCN, I think, I'm not sure if it comes with it, but there should be from Redux UI React slot. This is the guy that we need. Then this guy will be giving you the slot actually. This one is great because you can change this component into different one. So here, what I would do is if, I'm gonna create component, comp, I'm gonna call it comp, and then as a child. So I'm gonna add one additional props called as a child here, okay? So as a child will be a boolean, okay? And then this one will be optional. But if as a child is existing and it's truthy, but I'm gonna set the default false. If this guy is existing or truthy, then we're gonna render the slot. Otherwise, I'm gonna mark it as a div tag, okay? So then instead of div tag right here, I'm gonna swap to component here. So let's try to use it and then see, okay? So here I'll be using container to my header, okay? So here I'll be just getting container and then import, not from Lucy to React. Container is from the core container that we just generated. So what it means, we don't need this guy, right? So it works exactly the same, right? So let me just to bring it back to 100%. So when when your screen size grows, your content just still remains in the center, right? So you can see that. Another thing that I want to point it out, let's make it a little bit bigger. So you have div tag, and then inside of div tag, which this one is the container, right? So inside of container, you have another div tag and then anchor tag, right? So these two, you can merge it. The way you can do is you can give class name and then just pass those two here. Then it's gonna work exactly the same. Awesome. So that's one alternative, right? Then you just leave it one single element, one single component instead of nesting div tag here, right? So looking good. Now, since we have a container component, let's try to use that here too, right? So landing page, let's go to page and then add a container. So here, container, then everything is automatic. Awesome, right? Looking good. Okay, so let's move on. Oh, not this guy. I'm gonna make a quick commit and then continue. So quick commit, create header. Awesome. One thing I have missed is we don't have header tag, right? So if you look at here, we are having div tag directly inside of the body tag, but we need to make it more semantic, right? So to do that, you will go to header. Let's go to header and then add header tag here. Without this, we're gonna have a problem. As an example, what if we have a container has background color, right? So red 500. Then when your container grows, take a look, right? So you have inconsistent looking, right? To prevent this, you will have to have header tag for sure, right? This is not only problem. So now let's wrap the header, right? So there are some styles what header is supposed to have, like such as like keeping it just sticky to the top, like a sticky to the top, 0. So what this guy will be doing is when your content is overflowing, like you see right now, your header can stay at the top, right? And then at the same time, when your page is having really big, let me just give quick styling here. So let's say height to screen. Then do you see like here, you see like the logo and then your content are overlapping. So to prevent this, we need to give BG background color to the header, right? So here I'm gonna give BG background. Yeah, I think that's what I wanted to actually. I will make a quick commit and then we'll continue more. Add header tag to header component. Awesome.